All right. Good evening, everyone. Online students, I hope I'm audible. Now, in our previous lecture, we were talking about Gupta society we had covered and Gupta religion. Once again, what were the main factors that were shaping evolution in the Gupta age religion? वही तीन factors जिन्होंने society को shape किया था, that is the revival and spread of Brahmanism to land grants. Secondly, the assimilation of non-Aryans into mainstream society. And thirdly, the growing regionalization and utilization of the economy. These were the factors behind religious changes or developments, which resulted in the emergence of certain common features. Namely, Brahmanical domination, secondly, bhakti, thirdly, temple construction, Brahmanical rituals, and idol worship. Fourthly, growth of Tantricism. Next, the emergence of cyclic view of time and the universe. And lastly, the codification of the 6 orthodox philosophies, namely Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Okay? Now, let us look at how these features came to be. So, before we do that, ये हेडिंग दे दिया है गुप्ता रिलीजन, इसके नीचे लिखो The religion of the Gupta age also exhibited continuity and change along with the features of uniformity in diversity due to the following major factors. Number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, revival and spread of Brahmanism through land grants. Number 2, the assimilation of non-Aryans. And number 3, the regionalization and feudalization of the economy. Regionalization and feudalization of the economy. So stop. आगे लिखो. Next main point. While religion of this period was characterized by rising complexity and diversity, comma, rising complexity and diversity, it had some important universal features. It had some important universal features. Stop. One by one ये सारे हमको elaborate करने. Number 1, Brahmanical domination. Brahmanical domination. Full stop. Under this, right? It was ensured through the use of both practical as well as ideological means. As well as ideological means. Full stop. What were the practical means? Land grants made by the state, protection offered by the state, recognition to the Brahmins, and the legal machinery created by them, and the implementation of Brahmanical laws by the state. So, practical means. And ideological means consolidation of the Varna Ashram Dharma system, proliferation of the castes, the recognition of Brahmins as the purest and hence the supreme Varna, the compilation of Puranic literature in order to spread Brahmanical values among the people, etc. Sub point likho. The state facilitated Brahmanical domination through land grants, comma, provided them protection, comma, recognized their property rights and enforced the laws made by them. Stop. It's a point. Ideologically, Brahmanical domination was reinforced through the rigid implementation of varna ashram dharma, comma, the crystallization of the concepts of purity and pollution, comma, the proliferation of castes and mainstreaming of Brahmanical values to Puranic literature. ठीक है, ये हो गया ब्राह्मणिकल डोमिनेशन. नेक्स्ट, भक्ति. नंबर 2, भक्ति. Write down. It emerged as a result of the assimilation of non-Aryans into the mainstream society. Full stop. Subpoint. The cultural practices of the non-Aryans including devotionalism or bhakti also entered the mainstream religion. Comma, manifesting itself in the form of Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Shaktiism, Mahayanism or Mahayan Buddhism, and idol worship among Jains. Full stop. Next subpoint. Bhakti. Next subpoint. Bhakti was an ideological protest against Brahmanical domination. How? What did it seek to do? It sought to remove the role of the priestly intermediaries when it came to religious worship. It focused upon establishing a direct relationship between God and man. Bhakti was also far more democratic than Brahmanism. Why? Under Brahmanism, there were strict Varna and caste based rules on who could participate in religious worship and who could not. Bhaktism was open to everyone. So it was a पर्सनल फेथ, पर्सनल डिवोशनल कल्ट. क्या लिखा है आपने? भक्ति वॉज ऑल्सो an ideological protest against Brahmanism since since it sought to uh, reduce priestly intervention in the relationship between man and God. In the relationship between man and God. Full stop. Subpoint. It was also significantly more democratic since people of all backgrounds were permitted to have a personal relationship with God. With God. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट तांत्रिसिज्म. जो फोर्थ वाला है उसको थर्ड कर दो. नेक्स्ट, राइट, तांत्रिसिज्म. Write down. It refers to the emergence of occult practices, OCCULT, occult practices within mainstream religions. Full stop. Next subpoint. Once again, it was the result of the assimilation of non-Aryans, especially tribals, next subpoint. Among tribals across India, religious life or religion was characterized by the prevalence of magical rituals, fertility worship, the use of intoxicants, to alter the mental state, so psychoactive substances, right, to alter the mental state, the prevalence of the idea of hidden powers being unlocked through meditation and exercise. The prevalence of powerful female goddesses Powerful female goddesses and magical rituals. Sorry, and sexual rituals. And sexual rituals. With the assimilation of tribals into mainstream society, all these elements are also going to be mainstreamed. Okay? Next sub point likho. As such, comma, with the peasantization of tribes, comma, these elements began appearing among all prominent religions. Among all prominent religions. Full stop. Subpoint. Next subpoint. In Buddhism, comma, it manifested itself in the form of Vajrayana Buddhism. Next subpoint. In Jainism, it resulted in the emergence of Yakshas and Yakshinis. In the emergence of Yakshas and Yakshinis, demigods and demigoddesses. These were the folk deities of the tribals who were incorporated as demigods within Jainism. Their worship was promoted. Next subpoint. In the Devi sect, it resulted in the emergence of the Shakti cult. Next subpoint. Within Shaivism, it contributed to the emergence of subsects such as the Nath subsects such as Nath, Kapalika, and Kalmukhi sects. Nath, Kapalika, and Kalmukhi sect. Next subpoint. Within Vaishnavism, comma, it manifested in the form of the Panchatantra sect. Stop. Next point likho. All these sects, main point likho, all these sects shared some similarities. Write down. Subpoint. They were characterized by the presence of powerful female goddesses. Why do you think this was so? Because tribals में mother goddess का cult काफी strong था and fertility cult was also quite strong. ठीक है? Powerful female goddesses. And within Tantricism, what would be the position of these female goddesses? high position to hoga. What is the relationship that they'll share with the female or the male gods? Male gods are also going to be shown as extremely powerful, but the source of their power will be the female goddesses. For example, Shiv ke saath Shakti, right? They appeared, same appointment, they appeared as the wives of male gods, and were crucial to unlock or to activate their latent energy, ठीक है. Next sub point, so next common feature क्या देखने के लिए मिलता है? Are the tantric sects going to observe the same caste and varna rules that are employed by Brahmins? No. Write down. The tantric cults challenged Brahmanism by disregarding the caste and gender rules of the varnashram dharma. Full stop. They accepted followers from all backgrounds. Next sub point. Not only this, तांत्रिक प्रीस्ट्स होंगे वो ब्राह्मण्स होंगे या नॉन ब्राह्मण्स? Not only this, comma, even the tantric shamans, SHAMAN, came from non-Brahmin backgrounds. Thus posing a direct challenge to Brahmanical supremacy. What was the Brahmanical claim to supremacy based on? The idea that they were the purest varna, right? What is the tantric claim to supremacy going to be based on? That they enjoy magical powers which the Brahmins do not have, since they do not practice these various rituals, magical rituals. Okay. Next sub point likho. Thus they posed a direct challenge to Brahmanical supremacy. ठीक है. Next sub point. What is going to be the attitude of tantricism towards women? Are they going to subject women to the same kinds of restrictions as Brahmanism, or will their attitude towards women be much more liberal? So when it came to gender relations, Tantricism not only registered a note of protest, rather it exhibited the element of social radicalism. Okay? For example, many tantric cults did not recognize the institution of marriage at all. Okay? So sexual relations between men and women outside marriage were possible and in fact encouraged as part of tantric rituals. Write down. With regards to gender relations, comma, Tantricism carried the element of social radicalism. Full stop. It did not recognize the legitimacy of marriages and, as a corollary, rejected all the caste and varna based rules surrounding marriage. All the caste and varna based rules surrounding marriage. Full stop. They accepted and even encouraged sexual relations outside marriage, thus threatening to overturn the feudal system of land ownership by making inheritance rights impracticable. ठीक है, ये समझ में आया? By making inheritance rights impracticable. So therefore ब्राह्मणिज्म को बहुत स्टिफ चैलेंज मिल रहा था एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, बोथ फ्रॉम भक्ति एज वेल एज तांत्रिक. नेक्स्ट लिखो नंबर 4, temples, rituals and idol worship. Temples, rituals and idol worship. What was this? This was the response of Brahmanism to the challenge posed by Bhakti and Tantrism. ठीक है, write down. It was Brahmanism's response to the challenge posed by क्या है, Bhakti and Tantricism. Bhakti and Tantricism. Full stop. Next sub point. Through these practices, comma, not only were tribal gods and practices incorporated into Brahmanical religion, comma, they were also Sanskritized. Meaning they were given a distinctly Brahmanical flavor. ठीक है, so that means now ownership किसके हाथ में होगा तांत्रिसिज्म और भक्ति का? ब्राह्मण्स के हाथ में. Write down. Brahmins, next point, Brahmins emerged as the custodians of temples, idols, and the performers of different rituals and the performers of different rituals which were not strictly Aryan, which were not strictly Aryan. Full stop. Next subpoint. In this way, they took ownership. They took ownership of these tribal socio-religious protest movements. Of these tribal socio-religious protest movements. Thus preparing the platform, thus preparing the platform for sustained Brahmanical supremacy. Brahmanical supremacy. Full stop. Next subpoint. Ideologically, comma, the non-Aryans were subjugated through the dissemination of Brahmanical values by the medium of which category of literature? By the medium of the Purans. Right? And यहाँ पे क्या देखने के लिए मिलता है? That at times tribal gods and their incarnations are shown in a positive light, while at other times they are shown in a negative light. For example, Kali, who was a tribal terrifying goddess, is shown simultaneously as the devourer as well as protector of children. She is shown to be an uncontrollable force who threatens the whole of the universe, but at the same time, she is also shown as the slayer of demons. Durga, she is shown as the incarnation of Shakti or Devi who kills another tribal demon, Kon, Mahishasur, part man, part bull. Vishnu, one of his avatars, Narsimha, right? Part lion, part man, again taken from tribal legend. Then Kashyap, also part lion, part man, but killed by an avatar of Vishnu, right? So these are the kinds of things that are going to take place. So through these stories, ideological domination or subservience of the non-Aryans is going to be ensured. Clear? Next लिखो cyclic view of time and the universe. Cyclic view of time and the universe. ठीक है, ये कैसे किया, क्यों किया जाएगा? See, it was also introduced as part of the Puranic literature. क्या बताया गया? That there are 4 युगास. कौन कौन से? सतयुग, त्रेता युग, द्वापर युग, त्रेता युग and कलयुग, right? Together they make up one महायुग. ठीक है, and 14 such महायुगास make up one मानवांतर. ठीक है, that is an age of Manu. Several such manvantras make up a kalpa. Thousands of manvantras make up a kalpa. Kalpa is the period between sarga and pratisarga. Sarga represents the process of creation of the universe. The universe lasts for one kalpa, and pratisarga represents the destruction and then reconstitution of the universe. So sarga के बाद kalpa chalega, and then destruction and then recreation. Once again ये cycle शुरू हो जाएगा, right? Now, why do you think such an elaborate scheme was necessary? What was being done in the field of religion at this point of time? Tribal cults and gods and goddesses were being incorporated into the mainstream society, and they were given a Brahmanical fee, you can say veneer, right? Now, this was a very obvious thing that was taking place. How to convince the people who are going to be hearing these Purans that it actually is something which is not being done deliberately by the Brahmins, rather, it is something that has been taking place over a long period of time and is being done directly by God. Kaise? Create a sense of agelessness, timelessness. Try to convince the audience that your group or your person, that is an insignificant speck of dust in the wider scale of things. This was done in order to assign a status of unassailable authority to the Purans, through which these Brahmanical values were to be disseminated. ठीक है? And if people believe that ये Purans जो हैं, they precede any kind of human existence, then they are more likely to believe it. They are not likely to doubt it, and neither are they likely to doubt the things that are written in them, the values that are being imparted to them. Okay? This is why this cyclical understanding of time and the universe was introduced. Write down. लिखो. In order to assign the status of incontrovertible authority or unassailable authority, unassailable, unassailable authority to the Purans, and thus the teachings and values contained within them, comma, their authors tried to give them a sense of agelessness or timelessness. Timelessness or agelessness. Full stop. This was done to convince the audience, that these works are of divine origin, which predate any human life. Full stop. Next point लिखो. Time was conceived. Time was conceived in the form of 4 yugas to make up one Mahayuga. Full stop. 14 such Mahayugas constituted one Manavantara, within brackets, age of Manu. Full stop. Several such Manavantras made up one Kalpa, within bracket, the life cycle, sorry, uh, the life cycle of the universe. Life cycle of the universe. Full stop. Next sub point. Each kalpa began with the process of creation, within brackets, sarga, and ended with destruction, within brackets, pralay. Following which it was reconstituted. Within brackets, pratisarga. Pratisarga. ठीक है? Next sub point. According to Puranic literature, the universe has been created, destroyed, and reconstituted thousands of times. Thousands of times. ठीक है? तो ये हो गया cyclic view of the universe and of time. Last लिखो, number 6, the codification of the 6 orthodox Indian philosophical schools. Of the 6 orthodox Indian philosophical schools. Full stop. Write down. The Gupta Age represented the high watermark of Brahmanical philosophy. Full stop. This was a natural development due to the strong Brahmanical revival witnessed during this period. Full stop. Next point. It manifested It manifested in the form of the maturation of the six orthodox schools of Indian philosophy, namely Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mansa. This is also known as Purva Mimamsa. And Vedant. This is also known as Uttar Mimamsa. These philosophical schools received their final shape. Why? Because this was the high water mark of Brahmanical culture as well. Okay? There was a strong Brahmanical revival during this period. So these are the developments when it comes to religion. All these six things we have covered now. Take down a question. How did the ongoing social, economic, and political developments during the Gupta Age shape religion of this period? Question mark. 15 marks. 200 words. हो जाएगा? What are the social, economic, and political developments that we have to talk about? ये थी the revival and spread of Brahmanism through land grants, assimilation of non-Aryans, and the spread of Brahmanical culture among them, and the regionalization and feudalization of the economy. This created a number of socio-economic and political pressures which would shape the Gupta Age religion. ठीक? कैसे? Outcome क्या होगा? These common features. ठीक है? So you simply need to highlight the interplay between the socio-economic and political forces and religion of the Gupta Age. हो जाएगा? ठीक. Religion हो गया. Next, let us talk about literature, art, and architecture. Now, लिखो. सबसे पहले literature. The Gupta Age is widely regarded as the classical age of Sanskrit literature. Why? Because a large amount of high quality Sanskrit literature was produced during this period, making the Sanskrit literature of this period the standard for all future ages. It included both religious as well as secular literature. Religious literature of this period in Sanskrit includes the Purans, the Smritis, and the epics. That is the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which were given their final shape during this period. Secular literature composed by literary figures such as Bhash, Shudrak, Kalidas, Vishakhadat, Kalidas, Vishnu Sharma, etc., who composed a large number of plays, wrote a large number of stories, novels. They also composed epics, etc. So literary works बनाए इन्होंने. Then authors such as Bharat Muni, and Vatsyayan prepared manuals on cultural activities. भरत मुनि ने क्या लिखा? The नाट्य शास्त्र. And Vatsyayan ने the Kama Sutra. Then authors such as Aryabhat, Varamihir, and Sushrut contributed in the field of science and mathematics. Aryabhatta wrote the Aryabhatiya or Aryabhatiyam or Aryabhatika. That is a manual on mathematics and astronomy. Varamihir wrote several works including the Brihat Samhita, which covers many fields ranging from chemistry to mathematics to astronomy. The Panch Siddhantika, which focuses upon primarily astronomy and astrology. The Brihat Jataka and Laghu Jataka, also focusing upon mathematics and astronomy. Sushrut wrote the Sushrut Samhita, which is the earliest known Indian work on सर्जरी. ठीक है, तो मेडिसिन वाला था दी चरक संहिता, सुश्रुत वाला सुश्रुत संहिता सर्जरी का है ये. ठीक है. नाउ एज अ रिजल्ट इट इज नोन एज द क्लासिकल एज ऑफ संस्कृत लिटरेचर. राइट डाउन नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. The Sanskrit literature of this period is considered to be the finest in the entire body of Sanskrit literature. Of Sanskrit literature. Finest in the entire body of Sanskrit literature. Full stop. Subpoint. It represented the peak of the artistic use of Sanskrit to compose a large number of classical works characterized by the elements of beauty, originality, harmony, based on the synthesis of the spiritual as well as artistic components of the subject matter. ठीक है? So when any art form, be it literature, sculpture, temple building, it exhibits these features, na, then it is known as a classical form of art. Subpoint. Next subpoint. As a result, comma, the Sanskrit literature of the Gupta age became a standard for all subsequent scholars. ठीक है? एंड ये कोई मॉडर्न आइडिया नहीं है. इनफैक्ट even if you see Banabhatta, who does he compare himself to? To Kalidas. If you see, or sorry, Bhash, right? If you see Dandin, who wrote the Kavyaras, the Das Kumar Charita, and Avanti Sundari, he was patronized by the Chalukyas, the rulers of the Deccan region. During the 8th century, he was writing. He compares himself to Kalidas. ठीक है? Next sub point लिखो. In fact, famous Sanskrit exponents of later periods would often compare themselves to Gupta age Sanskrit composers or Sanskrit authors. Example, Banabhat compares himself to whom? Bhash. While Dandin compares himself to Kalidas. The names of the works of all these authors, are you familiar with? जीएस में पढ़ा होगा। भाष का दरिद्र चारु दत्ता, लिखवा देता हूं मैं। शूद्रक, मृच्छ कटिकम, विशाखा दत्त का मुद्र राक्षसा एंड देवी चंद्रगुप्तम, कालिदास, के विक्रम और वश्यम, मालविकाग्निमित्रम, एंड अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम, along with कुमार संभवा, and रघुवंशम, along with मेघदूतम and ऋतु संहार। ठीक है, ऑल दीज वर्क्स, दरिद्र चारुदत्त से लेकर के अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम तक, what kinds of works are they? Are they novels, epics or dramas? Dramas हैं। The Kumar Sambhav and Raghuvansham, these are epics. Meghdootam and Ritu Samhar, these are poetic collections। कैसे याद करना है? सिंपल रूल है, जहां पे केवल लड़कों का नाम है वहां पे महाभारत होगा, इट इज एन एपिक। वेर एवर देर इज द नेम ऑफ अ बॉय, चारू सॉरी देवी एंड चंद्रगुप्त, विक्रम उर्वशी, मालविका अग्निमित्रम, अभिज्ञान शकुंतला, इट इज गोइंग टू बी अ ड्रामा। यहाँ पे भी चारुदत्त was the name of a poor Brahmin merchant who falls in love with a rich courtesan, that is Vasant Sena, उनकी लव स्टोरी है। मृच्छ कटिकम is a retelling, readaptation of the Daridra Charudatta itself. Mudra Rakshas is a drama with regards to the rise of Chandragupta Maurya to power. Devi Chandraguptam is the story of the ascension of Chandragupta II Vikramaditya by overthrowing his brother Ramgupta। ठीक है, एंड मेघ ऋतु, तो घटाएं बादल फिजाएं, इनकी बात कौन करते हैं? शायर, राइट? दीज आर पोएटिक कंपाइलेशंस, राइट? देन फर्दर literary works can be also attributed to Vishnu Sharma। He wrote a very famous collection of short stories, अभी भी बहुत famous है, the पंचतंत्र, right? These are usually in the form of animal fables. So from the point of view of animals, ये सारी stories बताई जाती हैं, generally for children, right? Now, Vikram or Vashya, what is the theme? It is a love story between an Apsara named Urvashi and one of the great rulers of the Bharat dynasty, that is King Puru, with the title Vikram. ठीक है, so Vikram and Urvashi. Malvika Agnimitra, Shunga prince who was the governor of Ujjain, falls in love with a servant girl who was an attendant of his wife, the crown princess. Right? Now, this is the love story between them. Abhigyan Shakuntalam is the love story between Shakuntala and Dushyant. Okay? Kumar Sambhava, theme is the birth of Lord Kartikeya. Raghuvansham, theme is the dynasty of Lord Ram. Meghdutam and Ritu Samhar are poetic compilations. Then other authors, Bharat Muni and Vatsayan. Bharat Muni wrote the Natya Shastra. It is considered to be the most authoritative text on dance, music, and drama. It talks about themes such as bhav, rag, tal. Bhav is expression. Rag is tone or melody. And tal is meter. It talks about the 9 rasas, that is the moods or emotions, etc. Right? And how does it treat the themes of dance, music, and drama? Are they standalone art forms? No, they are part and parcel of the same tradition of storytelling. Okay? These were mediums of storytelling. Vatsayan wrote the famous Kama Sutra, whose main focus is on enhancement of sensory pleasure or sensual pleasure. So here, Vatsayan talks about 64 different arts and crafts, including painting, vastu, interior decoration, the use of perfumes to make the living space more pleasurable, the use of water within the living space to make it more comfortable to live in, the use of makeup or shringar, the use of music to set the mood, and the sexual arts also. Okay, different sexual positions. So that is what Vatsayan talks about in the Kama Sutra. Then talking about the साइंटिफिक मैनुअल्स, आर्यभट्टा का आर्यभट्टियम, it is a manual on mathematics and astronomy. Varamihir wrote the Brihad Samhita. It's an encyclopedic scientific work on several sciences, including maths, astronomy, horticulture, agriculture, chemistry, etc. Okay. He also wrote the Panch Siddhantika, the Laghu Jataka. Brihad Samhita is also known as the Brihad Jataka. Okay. So, Panch Siddhantika and Laghu Jataka. They deal with the subjects of astronomy and astrology. Astronomy is the study of the heavenly bodies and their movements. Astrology is the pseudoscience of predicting the future based on the movement of heavenly objects. And finally, we have Sushrut, who wrote the Sushrut Samhita. The earliest known Indian work on surgery. ठीक है, ये हो गया लिटरेचर. नेक्स्ट, आर्किटेक्चर. व्हाट डू वी सी? बताइए. We see the true beginning of temple architecture. Further, we also see that other kinds of architecture would reach their peak. Specifically, cave art reached its peak, reaching its classical stage. ठीक है. Along with this, sculpture and painting would also reach their peak. Right? And then in other art forms, पहले आर्किटेक्चर कर लेते हैं, अदर आर्ट फॉर्म्स बाद में. तो डांस, ड्रामा, म्यूजिक, वहां पे भी हमको देखेगा कि क्लासिकल एज वाज रीच्ड. नाउ राइट डाउन. सबसे पहले the Gupta Age witnessed the emergence of temple construction on a large scale. No? Large scale. Stop. Under the Guptas, what kinds of temples were constructed primarily? Rock cut temples or structural temples? No, structural temples. They were made out of rock, but not a single piece of rock. So when we say rock cut temple, generally it refers to monolithic rock cut temples. वो यहाँ पे नहीं था. Write down. Next point. Mostly Gupta age temples were rock cut temples. Were structural temples. Were structural temples. Including the Kachi temple, the Bhitargaon temple. This was a Vaishnavite temple in UP near Kanpur. Next, the Mahakal temple, a Shaivite temple at Ujjain. The Dashavatar temple at Deogarh. This is near Jhansi, UP में ही है. And the Parvati temple at Nachna Kuthar, MP. ठीक है? So stop. Next point. A few cave temples. ये हो गए. Structural temples. A few cave temples were also constructed with the most famous one being the the Varaha cave temple at Udaygiri. The Varaha cave temple at Udaygiri. ये ओडिशा वाला उदयगिरी नहीं है, एमपी वाला उदयगिरी. ठीक है. Now, when it comes to temple construction, was the Gupta age the classical age of temple art or was it the initial age? Initial age. यहाँ पे क्या देखने के लिए मिलेगा? Great degree of trial and error. Experimentation is going to be visible. Write down next point. Since temple architecture was in its initial stages of development, the Gupta age witnessed a high degree of experimentation. Full stop. Therefore, it cannot be regarded as the classical age of temple art. as the classical age of temple art. Full stop. Next point. In fact, temple architecture continued to evolve continuously. Temple architecture continued to evolve continuously throughout the Gupta Age. Continuously throughout the Gupta Age. In 5 distinct stages. In 5 distinct stages. Stage 1. Exemplified by the temple number 17 at Sanchi. What do we see? Write down. The temple was in the form of a cuboid chamber with a flat roof constructed upon a shallow or short raised platform with the Garbhagriha preceded by a shallow pillared approach. Preceded by a shallow pillared approach. So stop. There was no Pradakshina path around the temple. And what about the temple walls? Were they adorned with sculpture or bare? Bare. And both the interior and exterior walls, and both the interior and exterior walls were bare. ठीक है? Were bare. देखो इस तरह का दिखेगा. This is the short raised platform. Structure is going to be simple. एक rectangular chamber या square chamber होगा, which is going to have a cuboidal shape, right? This is going to be the Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha is also known as the sanctum sanctorum of the temple, which is considered to be the holiest place of the temple. Why? Because it is what houses the image of the main deity, the idol of the main deity. It will not have a curvilinear roof or shikhar, rather it is going to have a flat roof, right? In front of the temple there are going to be a couple of steps just, okay, and connecting these steps to the main temple is going to be a shallow pillared approach. That is it, okay. So this is going to be the shallow pillared approach. There is going to be no room or no place for performing pradakshina around the temple. So temple का कोई बड़ा courtyard नहीं होगा. There is going to be no covered pradakshina path, etc. And the exterior as well as interior walls of the temple are going to be left completely bare. ये हो गया stage 1. Stage 2 of the temples. What do we see? Are exemplified by the Parvati temple at Nashna Kothar. MP. Basic shape is going to remain the same. क्या? The Garbhagriha is going to be in the shape of a cuboidal chamber with a flat roof. But instead of a short raised platform, we are going to have a higher raised platform. The main prayer chamber is going to be preceded by a deeper pillared approach. The approach is going to be considerably longer, and around the Garbhagriha there would be space for performing pradakshina. So a covered pradakshina path is going to be added. Effect क्या होगा? A higher raised platform is going to be there. The shape of the Garbhagriha is going to remain cuboidal, but and have a flat roof, but there is going to be a covered pradakshina path around the temple supported by pillars. Okay? So covered pradakshina path is also going to be there, and in front of the temple the devotees will be able to approach it through steps which are going to be far more in number. पहले केवल 2 सीढ़ियां थी, अब कई सारी सीढ़ियां होंगी, and there is going to be a deeper pillared approach. ठीक है? So this is the deeper pillared approach. कहां से देखने के लिए मिलता है वाला स्टेज? नाशना कोठार पार्वती टेम्पल. Stage 3. Exemplified by the Bhitargaon temple near Kanpur and the Dashavtar temple at Deogarh. What are the new features that we see? Once again, Garbhagriha is going to have the same shape. Kaisa? Cuboidal. But instead of having a flat roof, it is going to have a curvilinear roof known as a shikhar. It is going to continue to be constructed on a raised platform or high raised platform. This was known as Rajasthan. Rajasthan. Okay? The Garbhagriha is going to continue to be surrounded by a covered Pradakshina path. Further, in front of the Garbhagriha, there is not simply going to be a pillared approach, rather, a huge pillared structure which would act as the gathering place for devotees, known as a mandapa. From this point onwards, the temple would not simply have the image of the main deity, but also certain subsidiary deities, each of whom is going to be housed in a different chamber. And how many subsidiary shrines would be created? Four subsidiary shrines. So, total number of shrines in the same temple, five, one main deity, four subsidiary shrines. This was known as the Panchayatan style of temple architecture. And as a result, in order to accommodate all these structures, the earlier floor plan of the entire temples used to be simple rectangle, but now that is no longer going to be sufficient. And therefore, a crucifix floor plan is going to be introduced. What are the things that we'll see? Temple constructed on a high raised platform known as Jagati or Rajasthan. Okay? Having a cuboidal roof, sorry, a cuboidal chamber known as the Garbhagriha, where the image of the main deity is kept, surmounted by a curvilinear roof known as a shikhar, which is itself topped by a disc like stone known as amlak, and on top of that used to be a finial known as kalash. Okay? In front of the Garbhagriha would be a large pillared hall known as the mandapa. The mandapa would be connected to the entrance through a deep pillared approach. ठीक है. The temple would continue to have a covered pradakshina path around it. Further, in place of only one shrine, now 5 different shrines are going to be there. कहाँ पे बनाए जाएंगे? इधर. These are going to be the subsidiary shrines. Just outside the main temple courtyard. मतलब it is integrated है, लेकिन इस तरह से बनाया जाता. And seen from above, aerial view कैसा दिखेगा temple का? Crucifix floor plan. That means in the shape of a cross. Right? This is going to be the main shrine. ठीक, शिखर है उसके ऊपर. This is where the subsidiary shrines are going to be located. The Garbhagriha is going to be connected to the mandapa through a narrow vestibule. This was present in some cases, absent in others. It was known as the अंतराल. ठीक है, ये जो narrow vestibule है, इसको अंतराल बोलते हैं. There was space for performing pradakshina around the temple. This was known as the pradakshina path, and there was a deep pillared approach connecting the entrance of the temple to the mandapa. Here, ये हो गया the third stage. आगे बढ़े. अच्छा, यहाँ पे एक और चीज देखने के लिए मिला. Before this, only stone was being used to construct temples, but from this stage onwards, bricks also started to be used. In fact, the Bhitargaon temple is the earliest known brick temple in India. Further, it was from this stage onwards that carvings used to be done on the exterior walls of the temple to beautify them. Okay? The Dashavatar temple, its southern wall, has a huge stone carving of Vishnu who is lying on top of the Seshnag. Okay? So, carvings are also going to be introduced from this stage on. For the first time, carvings emerged as part of the ornamentation of Gupta temples. Okay. Now, next stage, stage 4. Example, the Trivikram temple at Ter in Maharashtra. Ter temple at Maharashtra. What do we see? That the temples are going to continue to be constructed on a high raised platform. However, instead of a cuboidal chamber serving as the Garbhagriha, the Garbhagriha is going to be only partly cuboidal. It is also going to have an apsidal portion. Okay? इंस्पायर्ड बाय बुद्धिस्ट स्ट्रक्चर्स. ठीक है. इन फ्रंट ऑफ दीज is going to be a long pillared mandapa. क्लियर है. इस तरह का अब से टेम्पल बनने लग जाएगा. राइट डाउन. This stage exhibited the presence of an apsidal garbhagriha inspired by Buddhist chaityas. Apsidal garbhagriha inspired by Buddhist chaityas. Full stop. The roof, subpoint लिखो, the roof was vaulted and in the shape of a barrel. ठीक. ये हो गया फोर्थ स्टेज. एंड फिफ्थ स्टेज, एग्जाम्पल दी मनियार मठ एट बोध गया, बिहार. What do we see? Write down. Instead of a square or cuboidal chamber, we find the use of a circular floor plan on top of a high raised platform with four projections extending in different directions at an interval of 90 degrees. ठीक है. तो ऊपर से देखने पे इस तरह का दिखेगा. The roof is going to be conical. Write down. The roof of the structure was conical. ठीक है. Now, out of these 5 stages, जो फ्यूचर टेम्पल्स हैं नॉर्थ इंडिया के, कौन सी स्टेज पे बेस्ड थे? फर्स्ट, सेकंड, थर्ड, फोर्थ और फिफ्थ? नो, थर्ड स्टेज. ठीक है. सो दिस वाज व्हाट became the basis for the further evolution of temple art in north. Write down. लिखो. टेम्पल आर्ट temple art in North India attained its classical stage, during the early medieval age. During the early medieval age. Attained its classical age during the early medieval period, early medieval age, in the form of the Nagar style of temple art. Nagar style, N-A-G-A-R-A, Nagar style of temple art. Full stop. This was a direct descendant. This was a direct descendant of the third stage of Gupta art. Of the third stage of Gupta art. Full stop. ये हो गया टेम्पल आर्ट. नेक्स्ट क्या देखना है हमें? केव आर्ट, है ना? Write down. The Gupta Age was the classical age of cave art. As this period witnessed the excavation of the largest number of caves at which places? At Ajanta, Bagh, Karle, Bhaj, 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 Udaygiri, etc. Full stop. Next point लिखो. While the caves of the previous period were single-storied structures, comma. What do we see during the Gupta age? Double or triple-storied caves. We witness the emergence of double and triple-storied caves. Triple-storied caves. Full stop. Next point. इसके पहले वाली जो केव्स होती थी उनकी इंटीरियर सरफेसेस कैसे होते थे? बेयर और कार्व्ड? बेयर हो, स्मूथ बट बेयर होते थे. अब क्या होगा? Carvings are going to be done, and along with that, painting is also going to be done. Write down. The interior surfaces of the caves, were heavily adorned with sculpture and paintings. Full stop. Next point. In fact, the Gupta age is regarded as The classical age of Indian wall painting. Classical age of Indian wall paintings. Right. Sorry about that. हाँ क्या डिस्कस कर रहे थे हम पेंटिंग ना रिगार्डिंग एज द क्लासिकल एज ऑफ wall paint, Indian wall paint. Write down their important characteristics included. Their important characteristics included the following. The following. Number one, primarily they were religious or secular forms of art. Religious. Belonging to which religion? बहुत सारे religions, ठीक है, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism also. Write down. Including primarily they were religious art associated with Buddhism, Vaishnavism, Shaivism, and Jainism. Full stop. Next up point. Mural is the general name for any wall painting. ठीक है? These mural were executed using the tempera fresco technique. Using the tempera fresco technique. It is also known as seco art. ठीक है? तो tempera fresco or seco fresco, right? It is different from true fresco, which is also known as buon fresco. तो fresco में होता क्या है that the painting is always done on a prepared surface. How is the surface prepared? एक तो एक हैमर एंड चिजल लेकर के सरफेस को पहले रफ किया जाएगा. After that, rice paste and cow dung mixture is used in order to coat the surface. That is going to act as the base of the painting. So base coat उसका लगाया जाएगा. Then wet lime is taken and plastered over the surface. That is going to be the secondary coat. Now in buon fresco, the color is applied while the lime plaster is still wet. ठीक है? However, in tempera fresco, the color is applied after the lime plaster has already dried and उसको दोबारा से damp किया जाता है using a wet cloth. ठीक है? तो wet cloth लेकर के उस area को damp किया जाएगा and then the color is absorbed. उससे होगा क्या? Why wet surface paint किया जाता है? The color gets absorbed deeply into the surface of the painting, making the paintings much more lively and long lasting. ठीक है? So it is a form of tempera fresco, not buon fresco or true fresco. Right? Next लिखो. Gupta paintings were a form of line art or lineless art. Lineless art में क्या होता है? जो outline होगा different features का, that is not going to be shown. For example, the human body has to be shown. तो फेस के सामने कोई ब्लैक आउटलाइन नहीं होगा, आर्म्स के अराउंड कोई ब्लैक आउटलाइन नहीं होगा. लाइन आर्ट में क्या होगा? हर फीचर के अराउंड ब्लैक कलर का आउटलाइन. व्हाट डू वी सी इन द केस ऑफ गुप्ता आर्ट? लाइन आर्ट होता है, नॉट लाइनलेस आर्ट. इज अ फॉर्म ऑफ लाइन आर्ट. नेक्स्ट सब पॉइंट. an important characteristic is the highly expressive nature of these paintings. So the pathos of the paintings is extremely strong. That means the emotion of the feeling is extremely strong. Right? Next up point. Another important character is the fluidity and gracefulness. Fluidity and gracefulness of the human and animal subjects. In these paintings. कहीं पे भी sharp angles का use नहीं होगा. Emotions are also going to be measured. ठीक है? So even though a high degree of joy or sorrow has to be shown, तो उसको दिखाया जाएगा moderate तरीके से. Mirth is going to be shown in a graceful manner. Sorrow is going to be shown in a graceful manner as well. ठीक है? Further, centrality is an important characteristic of Gupta wall art. मतलब these paintings were made on a huge scale. तो बड़े बड़े paintings होते थे and usually the scenes were taken from religious legends, for example the Jataka tales or the Purans, and वो जो central figure होगा, the hero of that scene, they are always going to be shown as the most prominent one. So the attention of the viewer is going to directly be drawn towards them. Centrality was also an important character of such paintings. ठीक है? Next, we need to talk about sculpture as well. Write down the evolution of the Gupta school, also known as the Sarnath school of sculptural art, was influenced by Gupta or Sarnath school of sculptural art was influenced by earlier sculptures. पोस्ट मॉडर्न पीरियड में भी कुछ स्कल्पचरल स्कूल्स का इमर्जेंस हुआ था, नेमली गांधार, मथुरा एंड अमरावती स्कूल्स. आउट ऑफ दोज गांधार एंड मथुरा स्कूल्स के सिंथेसिस से गुप्ता स्कूल इमर्ज हुआ, नेमली द गांधार एंड मथुरा स्कूल्स. From the Gandhar school, it borrowed its technique while from the Mathura school it borrowed its spirit. गांधार स्कूल का स्पेशलिटी क्या था? Accurate anatomical depiction of the subjects, right? However, उसका shortcoming क्या था? Absence of any emotions. मथुरा स्कूल्स का की खूबी क्या थी? Emotional component was very well depicted, but anatomical accuracy के ऊपर फोकस नहीं होता था. तो हाथ कभी ज्यादा लंबा हो रहा है, कभी सर बॉडी से के मुकाबले बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा है. दीज काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग्स वर प्रॉब्लम्स. तो गांधार स्कूल से उसका टेक्निक बोरो किया, मथुरा स्कूल से उसका स्पिरिट. आगे लिखो. देयरफॉर द गुप्ता स्कूल ऑफ स्कल्पचरल आर्ट represents a synthesis of Gandhar technical accuracy, of Gandhar technical accuracy and Mathura's Mathura's emphasis upon lifelike emotions. Lifelike emotions. Blended harmoniously. Blended harmoniously. Full stop. Blended harmoniously. Full stop. This confirms the Gupta Age as the classical age of sculptural art. As the classical age of sculptural art in India. Full stop. Next point. In fact, the sculptors of the Gupta Age were able to create the same effect as the paintings at Ajanta. As the paintings at Ajanta. As the paintings at Ajanta. Full stop. It has the same technique. It has the same technique, comma, visual effect, visual effect, comma, emotional component, and grace, and grace as the paintings at Ajanta. As the paintings at Ajanta. Next point. Mathura and Gandhar school में what kinds of materials were being used? Mud, schist, stucco, sandstone, etc. Right? यहाँ पे वो सारे materials तो use होंगे ही. Apart from that, use of metals is also going to start. That is copper and bronze images. Write down. While the Gandhar and Mathura schools, did not use metals, comma, the use of copper and bronze became common during the Gupta period for sculpture. Stop. Next point. Gupta sculptures like Gandhar art, comma, like Gandhar art are known for their anatomical accuracy with the production of a large number of life-size images of the Buddha. Life-size images of the Buddha. Life-size images of the Buddha. Buddha in real life was considered to be or was believed to be an extremely tall person, roughly 7 feet or even more in height. ठीक है, so 7 फुट के images यहाँ पे बहुत सारे देखने के लिए मिले. Next sub point. However, like Mathura art, the images of the Buddha are highly expressive. Full stop. Next point लिखो. In fact, comma, the hand positions of the Buddha are used to convey special meaning and emotion to the viewer. Full stop. To the viewer. These hand positions or hand gestures are known as Hast Mudras. So Hast Mudras are going to become an increasingly important component of Buddhist art during the Gupta period. These include the Bhumi Sparsh Mudra, the Abhay Mudra, the Varad Mudra, the Vitarak Mudra, the Dharma Chakra Mudra, the Karna Mudra, the Dhyan Mudra, the Vajra Mudra, the Uttra Bodhini Mudra, and the Anjali Mudra. Bhumi Sparsh Mudra, what does it symbolize? No. Bhumi Sparsh Mudra mein Buddha is in a seated position and his eyes are half open as if he is just emerging from deep meditation. His right hand appears to be reaching beyond his knee and close to touching the ground. इसको बोलते हैं भूमि स्पर्श मुद्रा. इसके पीछे थ्योरी स्टोरी है क्या? that while Buddha was meditating to attain Bodhi, to attain Nirvana, a demon named Mara got extremely jealous. He tried to destroy the concentration and meditation of the Buddha, though, to prevent him from doing so. However, Buddha persisted and finally attained enlightenment or bodhi. And in order to give proof of his steadfastness, he called the earth to witness his chastity. So he was calling the earth's attention to witness his charity. So write down Buddha giving proof, Buddha giving proof of his chastity, giving proof of his chastity to the earth. Right? Next, कौन सा है? अभय मुद्रा. What does the name suggest? Over here, the Buddha is simply reassuring his devotees not to be afraid, to be without fear or abhay. Right? So he simply raises his right hand in this position. इस तरह से reassure कर. Varad mudra. Varad means giving a vardhan, fulfilling the wish of an individual. So his devotees would ask him for different things, they would wish for different things. He would grant them their wishes like this. कि जो चाहिए वो ले लो. So right hand pointing downwards. Vitarak mudra was the Buddha engaging in some kind of philosophical discussion. ठीक है. So उसके लिए traditional ये होता है. Whenever people in the ancient world used to try and make a point, this was the hand gesture that they used to make. This is not unique to India only. बाहर भी ऐसा ही होता था. So whenever people used to emphasize, ऐसे ऐसे करके नहीं करते थे, इस तरह से करके करते थे. Why? क्योंकि ऐसे ऐसे करके accusatory लगता है, इस तरह से थोड़ा intellectual लगता है. Right? So वितारक मुद्रा. Next, the Dharma Chakra mudra. Dharma Chakra, Buddha's first sermon. So this also involves philosophical discussion. In fact, it is more important than Vitarak Mudra. तो यहाँ पे दोनों हाथ से इस तरह का gesture होगा, right? So the index finger and the thumb forming a ring, and the three other fingers extended outwards with the palm facing towards the body. Karan Mudra. This was the hand gesture which symbolized the Buddha warding off evil. Okay? So to shield his devotees from evil, तो इस तरह से hand को gesture करेंगे कि evil go away, right? Go corona, go type. Then Dhyan Mudra, Buddha is going to be in a seated position, eyes closed in meditation, cheeks sunken because of not eating any food, and the hands are going to be like this, right? Placed one on top of the other in the lap. फिर क्या है? Vajra Mudra, right? So Buddha was represented as being the perfect union of the 6 elements out of which creation are made. That is air, fire, water, earth, metal, and ether or space. So right hand is going to be like this. This is one element, and the left hand is going to be in a fist. Okay? Or this fist is going to be wrapped around this. So 6 elements ho gaye. 5 plus 1, 6. Next we have the Uttara Bodhini Mudra. This represents the supreme enlightenment of the Buddha. So Buddha over here is almost going to be shown in a god-like light. कैसे दिखाया जाएगा? Eyes are closed, but they are stretched as if in elation. The tilak on his forehead is also going to be shown opening up as if his third eye is opening, the eye of illumination or enlightenment, that is opening. And his hands are going to be in this position representing his supreme enlightenment. And Anjali Mudra, this is also known as the Namaskaram Mudra, right? Buddha's hands would be folded as if in welcome of the devotee or in adoration. It has also been interpreted in another way, that Buddha is explaining the true nature of reality. This and this, तथार्थ. ठीक है? So उसका मतलब ये होता है. तो ये आपने लिख लिया है. अभय मुद्रा लिखो. नंबर 2, Buddha reassuring the devotees. reassuring the devotees. Number 3, Varad Mudra, granting a wish. Number 4, Vitarak Mudra. This is the gesture of discussion. Gesture of discussion. Number 5, Dharma Chakra Mudra. Buddha delivering his first sermon. Buddha delivering his first sermon. Next, Karan Mudra. Warding off evil. Warding off evil. OFF of evil. Next, Dhyan Mudra. Meditative pose. Next, Vajra Mudra. The union of 6 elements in the Buddha's person. In the Buddha's person. That is earth, air, fire, water, metal, and ether. Uttra Bodhini Mudra. What does it symbolize? Buddha's supreme enlightenment. Buddha's supreme enlightenment. Next, Anjali Mudra. Anjali Mudra. It is the gesture of welcome. The gesture of welcome, comma, adoration, or the Buddha explaining the true nature of reality. Explaining the true nature of reality. True nature of reality. We have seen architecture also, painting also, and sculpture also. Next likho. Dance, drama, and music. Dance, drama, and music. These are the other art forms. Dance, drama, and music. Likho. The Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni. The Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni is the most authoritative ancient text on these subjects. On these subjects. Full stop. Subpoint. He talks about the different types of dances, music, musical instruments, the rules of the stage, etc., etc. Full stop. Next main point. This clearly indicates that a rich variety of dance, music, and theatre forms had reached the classical age, or had reached the classical stage during the Gupta Age. During the Gupta Age. So stop. Next main point. The same sentiment is the same sentiment is discernible discernible in the Kama Sutra of Vatsyayan, which talks about 64 different crafts. 64 different crafts. So stop. Next point. Thus, comma, except for temple architecture, comma, the Gupta age truly was India's classical age. The Gupta age truly was India's classical age. Okay? So with this, we have completed our discussion on Gupta age religion, art and architecture as well. Society हो गया, polity हो गया, economy हो चुका है. Now what is left to do? We need to discuss the decline of the Gupta age or decline of the Guptas. What were the processes responsible for that? Right? That we are going to do in tomorrow's lecture. Okay? चलिए then. Thank you for your time. कल मिलते हैं.